What would you do to claim the crown of command for yourself? Would you risk everything, including your life? Well, you might need some hints and strategy. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we're going to be taking a look at, not quite Talisman, but we're going to be doing another character guide. We've already done the Sorceress and this time we're going to be doing the Ghoul. And we're going to be giving you, I've been playing Talisman now for a while and over the years you kind of get to know the characters quite well and what works best for them. Their hints and tips for the strategy, how to claim the crown of command. The Ghoul. He is a base character from Talisman. So I thought, let's look at all the base characters first. So that's what we're going to be doing with these guides. There's 14 of them. And then we're going to be going on to the expansions. And there's a lot of those. So the Ghoul, who is he, what is he, and why is he? Well, the Ghoul, he starts in the graveyard, as you would imagine a Ghoul to start. His alignment is evil. There are 3 alignments in Talisman. There's good, neutral, and evil. He is evil. He has a strength 2. He also has craft 4. He has life 4, and he has fate of 4. Now, each character has special abilities and they all differ. Some are similar, but they are all unique. And that's the beauty of Talisman, because you never know just exactly what character you're going to get. Now, we play where we get random characters. In fact, I played over the weekend and we actually decided to do something slightly different where we get dealt out 3 random characters and then we picked the one that we wanted. And that was good fun, because you kind of have more chance of getting the character that you actually really want. Because I think naturally you'll like more, some characters more than you will others. You'll just naturally gel towards them, and their special abilities will suit your kind of gameplay. So with the special abilities, I'll just do a quick overview, and then we'll go into them in a little bit more detail. Special abilities are: he's got 3. When you attack another character, you may choose to make that attack psychic combat. And you may not do this when you are attacked by another character. Number 2, whenever you defeat a character in psychic combat, if you choose to take one of his lives, you add it to your own. Number 3, when you kill an enemy in battle, you may raise it from the dead and keep it as a follower instead of a trophy. You may have one of your raised followers add its strength to yours for 1 battle, after which it disintegrates to the discard pile, or as I like to call it, the disco pile. You may only use 1 raised follower per battle. Now, as you can tell, the Ghoul's strength does lie in attacking other characters, similar to the Sorceress. 2 of the 3 special abilities are all to do with attacking other characters, and my advice is to do this as early as possible as you can in the game. Make that one of your kind of first things that you kind of want to be doing. So look where all the characters are and then just go for it. See if you can land on their space. And the reason why I say do it early on as possible, because that's when everybody is at their weakest. So you've probably got more chance. So let's go through the special abilities in a little bit more detail. It says here, choose psychic combat when you attack another character. So why would you want to attack another character in the first place? All these characters have this ability. If you land on another player and you attack them, unless it states otherwise, you'll be fighting with strength, which is called a battle. Psychic combat, you'll be fighting with craft, and that's what it's called. So there's a difference between the terminology. A battle is strength, psychic combat is craft. So anybody can do this though, any character. If you land on another character, you can say, I want to attack that character. And normally, as I say, it's with strength battle, unless you've got a special ability or an object or a spell that can change it to psychic combat. So if you win, you can either force the loser to lose a life, or you can take 1 object or gold. If you kill the loser, you can then take all of their objects, followers and gold. Obviously the carrying capacity still applies. If you have no other if you haven't got a mule or anything that ups your carrying capacity, then it's only 4 objects. Trinkets, by the way, don't count, but I don't think trinkets are in the base game. That's only on the expansions. So it's quite a good idea anyway to start doing that, because if there's somebody has an object that you want to take, you can go over and you can attack them and you can take that object. Or if you're after gold, you can go and try and steal a gold off somebody. Now normally you can then steal a life, well not steal a life, you can then force them to lose a life, and that life would actually then get to back into the life pool, and so it's sort of out of the game. Whereas this special ability actually allows you to take that life and add it to your own. So it's quite a good idea, because Talisman is quite brutal, especially when you first start playing with your character, because as I say, you're at your weakest. Then it's quite a good idea to try and get those lives, and most people won't have a lot of objects at the beginning of the game, so it's a good idea. It's a good quick way, if you can land on them. That's always the tricky bit, because it's always luck, isn't it, unless you've got a spell or something that can actually land on a specific space. Then it's a quick, easy way to try and get as many lives as possible, because you need quite a lot of lives in Talisman. So of the 14 base game characters, 6 have a lower craft than the Ghoul, and they are the Assassin, who has 3, the Dwarf, who has 3. Now with the Dwarf, don't try and attack them in the hills, because they can evade, which means if you say, yeah, I'm going to attack you, if they're in the hills, the Dwarf can say, no you don't, I'm evading you, bye, and then there's no battle. So don't do the Dwarf in the hills, so to speak. There's the Monk with 3, Thief with 3, Troll with 1, and Warrior has 2 craft. Now the reason why I'm pointing those out is obviously you have a craft of 4, so you're going to have an advantage, and certainly on the early play of the game, so at the beginning, you need all the advantage you can get, because there's not going to be a big difference, because none of you are really beefed up at that point. So I would suggest, if any of those are in play, because obviously if you're playing the random way of it rather than picking the character at the beginning, then I would go for one of those 6 characters. So the other one is, whenever you defeat a character in psychic combat, if you do decide to take a life, you actually do add it to your own. So why would you want to take a life rather than an object or gold? Well, as I was saying, it's a brutal game. You want to build up your lives as best as possible, because sometimes events, an adventure card that you flip over, that actually can be an event, and you could just lose a life. Now if you're down to 1 life, that could kill you off, and you've got no comeback to that. So you do need, if ever I get down to 2 lives, I start looking to see ways like how I can get lives. If you're good, you can go to the chapel. If you're evil, it's harder. You have to go and buy lives. Or, as I say, if you're the Ghoul, you can go and fight another character. So obviously you want to build up your lives. Obviously, if there is an object that another character has, they might have got a talisman early on, you might want to, certainly if you've got 3 or 4 lives, you might want to just take the object instead. But I would always go for the lives early on. 3, you can raise an enemy in battle from the dead, and you can keep it as a follower instead of a trophy. So why raise it and keep it as a follower as opposed to cashing it in as a trophy? If you kill an enemy, you take it as a trophy, which means you just put it next to your character card. It's not in play, it's just kind of with you, just on your back. You're just dragging a dead corpse around. And if you collect enough either strength or craft, then you can cash that in for 7. You have to have 7, so say you killed a boar of 1 and I don't know, a giant of 6, that's just off the top of my head, and that adds up to 7, and they're both strength, then you can cash that in for 1 strength. Equally, if you have trophies that use craft, and they all add up to 7 or more, it can go over, but you just lose those points, if you see what I mean. Then you can just cash in and get a craft. So obviously that's a good way of leveling up as well, because ultimately you do want to be leveling up your craft, you want to be leveling up your strength, because you need that for the later stages of the game, the inner region, and that's where the Crown of Command is. So that's a good way. But with this one, certainly early on, if you raise if you raise an enemy that you've just defeated, then you can add it to your strength in a battle. So that's strength battle. Now, you start off with 2, which is pretty low. So you're going to find it difficult to fight these strength-based characters. But if you can get, say, a boar, then that just adds 1 extra, and that can make all the difference. If you can manage to kill something that's got the same as you, 2, then next time you fight, you can use it to then fight something bigger. Maybe you can take on something that's got a strength 5. And then if you defeat that, then you can take that. Now you can have as many of these raised followers as you like, which is brilliant. And you don't have to use them in the next battle, you can use them when you can choose. So you could have an army of these dead followers following you around, and you can only use them once per battle. So once you've used that one, it goes off to the discard pile. You can't cash it in and use it as a trophy. But you know what? It's a good way of making sure, especially early on in the game, that you can handle stronger characters or stronger enemies. Now you've got to watch out that it says enemy on the card, because not all creatures are enemies. I won't go too far into that explanation, but there are different types of creatures. Not all of them are enemies, so you have to make sure that it says enemy on the card. The downside to the Ghoul, well, surprisingly, because it's got craft 4, it doesn't start the game with a spell. So normally if you start, whichever is higher, the craft or the strength, that's normally the one that you start powering up with most, because you've got more chance of beating those creatures, or those enemies, those creatures, and therefore you kind of be collecting the trophies to then cash them in. So obviously if you've got a craft of 4 and a strength of 2, more than likely you're going to start powering up the craft more than your strength, unless you start doing the raising the dead followers, and then you can then start powering up your strength. So you kind of want it, so it's a bit of a downside that you don't start with a spell, and spells can be really powerful, can really help you out. The other downside, as I say, is it only has got a strength of 2, so you have to kind of be wary of characters that have got a larger strength than you. So if you have gone out and you've purposely gone to attack them so you can then take a life to boost up your life, you better watch out for revenge. And if they're normally, if they're stronger than you, they're going to be on your tail, so you've got to watch out for those. But as I say, you can raise the dead and you can add that to your strength. So you kind of be wanting to do a bit of both of those abilities. So as I say, the other downside is two of the 3 abilities is craft based and 1 is strength based. So that could dilute what you're trying to do, because you want to be sort of really powering up 1 rather than both, because it takes longer to power up the craft and the strength. So I normally pick 1. I go, right, this character is biased towards strength, I'm going to build up the strength. Or this character is biased towards craft, I'm going to build up the craft. So obviously if there's one that's got 2 abilities that's doing the craft and one that's doing the strength, you could get caught with your strategy. So just bear that in mind. Now the Ghoul has favourable places on the board because he's evil, and all evil characters will benefit from, in the outer region, the graveyard. So go there, because you can replenish your full fate for free. You get 4, which is a good amount. So if you just land on the graveyard, you can just choose to get your fate fully replenished, or you can pray. Praying at the graveyard, slightly strange. Praying to the devil, I guess. You roll 1 die, 1 to 4 is ignored, 5 you gain a fate, 6 is gain a spell. So that's a good way of getting spells. So I would recommend that you go to the graveyard every now and again just to see if you can get a spell. Build up your spells, because you do have 4 craft to begin with. Crags, roll 1 die. It's always good. If you go there, if you roll a 6, a barbarian leads you out, you gain a strength. If you roll a 1 though, you get attacked by spirit craft 4, which isn't too bad because you're on 4 anyway. 2 to 3 you're lost, return your mission next go, which is not too bad. And 4 to 5 is safe. So you've got a good chance of rolling a 6, or not really getting anything too bad happening to you. And you can gain a strength, and obviously you do need strength. And equally, you can go to the forest, you can roll 1 die, similar situation, and a ranger guides you out, gain 1 craft if you roll a 6. And obviously you do have fate, you can re-roll a die if you're not happy with the results. You can get 2 cracks at that to try and boost up your craft and your strength if you visit those spaces. Places to avoid on the board if you are evil. The outer region, never go to the chapel, never, because you will lose a life, it burns. Only good people should go there really, or neutral. The Sentinel, now you don't have to avoid it, but if you want to cross the Storm River, you have to defeat the Sentinel in battle using strength, and it has a strength of 9. And obviously when you start out, you've only got a strength of 2. Which is why, if you do raise your followers and you do get a 5 or a 6, you manage to beef it up to a 6, then you can add that to your strength of 2, and then you'll kind of be more on equal footing. So it's not a place to avoid, because you can still pick the adventure cards, you can do the actual space. But if you want to cross Storm River, that's not the best place to do it straight away. You can't choose psychic combat either against the sentinel, so which is, you know, although because it's not a character, you can only do it when you land on a character, and you can't raise it. So say you do defeat it, you can't then go, well, I'll raise it because it's an enemy. No, it's not an enemy, it's a creature, and that's what I was saying about looking out for anything that says enemy on the card, and because that's on the board, it's deemed a creature. Middle region, avoid the chasm, and the reason why that is, if you roll 1 die for yourself, you have to roll 1 die for your followers as well. If it's a 1 or a 2 for yourself, you lose a life. If you roll a 1 or 2 for your follower, it's killed. So obviously, if you've got a load of, you know, if you've got an army of dead followers, you don't want to land there because you could lose them all because they could just be killed outright, and you don't want that. The best route to go in the inner region, it's more likely going to be craft with this one because you start with 4 craft and only 2 strength, and 2 of your 3 abilities, as I said, lead you to sort of go around the craft sort of route. So you're probably going to be building your craft. But obviously, because of the Raise of the Dead, you could be getting strength quite well as well. That could start kicking in that mechanism. So you may want to consider going the strength route. But I would choose to go to the mines first, which is the craft route. So what you do is you roll 3 dice, you subtract your craft from the total and move directly to, so whatever your score is. 0 is the mines, 1 is Plane of Peril, 2 to 3 is Portal of Power, 4 to 5 is Warlock's Cave, 6 plus is the Tavern. So obviously, you know, in an ideal world, you'd have 18 craft, because if you rolled 3 6s, which would be very unlucky, you'll still stay in the mines. So you want to build up your craft as high as possible, because you probably will be doing that anyway. Vampire's Tower is the next space along in the inner region. You suffer blood loss. What happens there is you roll 1 die to determine how many lives the vampire takes. You may discard any number of followers to avoid that loss of life. So that's good. So by this time, build up your army if you can of undead, you know, of the dead followers, and you will lose. That prevents you from losing life. You can save 1 life if you roll a 1 and 2. 3 to 4, lose 2 lives. 5 to 6, you lose 3 lives. The pits is the next one. Fight the pit fiends. What you do is roll 1 die and you fight that many pits. Now this is a strength one. So obviously you might want to keep one in some of your followers with you as well, because then you can add that strength to the pit fiends. They've each got a strength of 4, and you fight them individually until you kill them all, or you're defeated. So a little bit of a recap then. You can land on a character to attack with psychic combat to gain lives. Do that. You can take objects, you know, take any objects that gets you spells, because you've got a good craft, which means you can cast a lot of spells. You can raise the dead, raise the enemies to become your followers, and that's great because you can add your strength to the follower's strength, and that, you know, gives you a better combined total. And you want to visit the graveyard to replenish fate, you want to go to the crags to gain a strength, and you want to go to the forest to gain craft. Go the mines route, because obviously you can use your raised followers to prevent loss of life in the Vampire's Tower, and also they will help you fight the pit fiends. So there we are. Hopefully you've enjoyed that and you've gained a lot of useful hints and tips if you manage to play the character of the Ghoul. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Remember, we will be doing more of the base game characters. I haven't decided which one next, but tune in. I mean, was it a TV show? Of course it is, it's on YouTube. Tune in next time. Same Talisman time, same Talisman channel. Hey, remember to keep it unreal, especially if you're a ghoul.